Welcome to the Intentional Leader Podcast presented by Reenergize Professional Coaching. We appreciate you listening in and learning with us. The stories and leadership tips you hear will help you become a great leader. Listen intentionally. Now, to our host, Sean Olson.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast. This is the podcast where you hear real stories of people just like you who have become extraordinary leaders. You'll learn valuable tips from their lives, tips you can apply to become the best leader you were created to be. When leaders are intentional, lives are changed. I'm Sean Olson, your host. I am an author, speaker, business owner, and today we are glad to have a special guest, Andre Williams, with us. Andre is an author. He's an entrepreneur. He is a fitness coach, a lot of different things. Andre, it is awesome to have you. Welcome to the Intentional Leader Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. I really do appreciate you sharing your time with me on your platform. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, man. It's our pleasure. So normally we start out this show, we ask our guests to kind of walk us through their professional career and leadership lessons learned along the way. With you, we're going to jump back a little bit further before your professional career began and just dive into college and the fact that you were a football player, and I would say a pretty good one. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it ended pretty good. It ended pretty good, but it really was a journey. Those 3.5 years at Boston College, BC is really a hockey school. You know that, they really win those chips. They really do at BC. Yeah. The football team, even though we're in the ACC conference, right? And that's a major conference. When I was playing ball, it was an ACC school that won the national championship my senior year. It was Florida State, So that was Jameis Winston. He also went on to win the Heisman. Came fourth in that race. So,
Say that one more time. You can go ahead and say that. It's an important thing for our listeners to know. You personally,
I was fourth. This was what I got from it. I didn't get the Heisman, but I got it's a plaque. It's a finalist plaque.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on that, man.
I appreciate it. But what I'm saying is that journey to that point, the previous year, BC had only won 2 games.
Wow.
Only won 2 games. Before that, we only won 4. When I came in my freshman year, we did win 7 games, and we ended up playing in a bowl game in San Francisco against it was Colin Kaepernick and the Nevada Wolfpack.
Yeah, I remember that team.
Yeah. So we from 7 to 4 to 2. And then at the end of it, just at the end, we had all the success. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it was a splash out of 4 years.
Yeah. So how many did you win that senior year then?
We won 7. We went back to a bowl game against Arizona Wildcats. They had so I ended up winning the Doak. There was 2 other running backs that were up for the Doak Walker. One of them went to Arizona. The other went to Washington. Blanking on their names right now.
That's all right. That's all right.
The bowl game, they wanted to pit the number 1 running back in the nation against the number 2. So that's how we ended up in that bowl game. It was like the Advocare Bowl. It was down in Shreveport, Louisiana. It wasn't a very good bowl game, but that's what they were pitching, was 1 against 2. But they shellacked us. And I was so beat up at that point in the season, Sean, because that was 2,000 yards I put on my shoulders.
Wow, that is crazy. So let's talk about this for a second, though, because, in sports, much like life, a lot of times there is a winner, right? So we have to define winning differently and navigate difficult times. So what was it like your junior year where you guys win 2 games, right? And so by the time you're coming to the end of the year, I don't know when those 2 wins were, but let's say you're 9 games in and you're 2-7 and you got a couple games to go. How do you lead through that? Because in your position, you were one of, if not the best players on BC at that point as the running back. How do you lead through difficult times when it looks bleak?
I think that you really before you get to the point where you can lead through a situation like that, you really just gotta understand something about yourself. The previous year when we had won 4 games, I was really getting ready to half step. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm like, man, I
Mm-hmm.
know it could be easier somewhere else. I know it could be easier somewhere else. Maybe I'll just go hit the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I this is what I did. I prayed about it. I prayed about it because
Awesome.
I said, is this the right thing to do? Should I really be doing this, God? And he gave me an answer, and he said, if you are who you say you are, if you are who you say you are, then you can do it anywhere. You could do it here. Difference is if you leave, you're going to be delaying your future.
Mm.
If you are who you say you are, that's what I heard from God. So I said, all right, I am who I say I am. I can do it here. I don't want to spend another year in school. I just had to make up my mind about who I said I was. That's the first thing that I
Mm-hmm.
did. And then I stuck to it. You just got to stick to
Nice.
it every day. It's just the
Yeah.
discipline, the consistency, the ability to endure pain and the mundane.
Yep. Yep. I love that. I love that. So then you transition, you go from college to pro. You were drafted, picked up in the pros. What was it like to go from the man on the team to, hey, you're a rookie, you got to prove it all over again?
I feel like I was prepared for that though at BC, going through all of that
Yeah.
adversity. When you come into a situation of adversity, it's not shocking to you. I just had
Hmm.
to. You're starting again as a rookie, just like freshman
Yeah.
year. You coming into a team where you're not the guy. You know,
Yeah.
but I did end up becoming the guy that year. My rookie year was my best year. It was the other 3 seasons after where the adversity came. So it was opposite how it happened in college.
So I love that. So let's talk about that for a second. So you go straight into the pros. Your first year is your best year, personally and for the team. I'm guessing at that point.
Um, we did 7 games that season with the Giants, and it was Coughlin's last season. They got rid of
Yep.
Coughlin after that season,
Yep. Okay.
and they
Okay.
brought up McAdoo. He was the offensive coordinator
Yeah.
from the Packers at the time. He ended up becoming the head coach, but it was Coughlin that brought me in. So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Coughlin left, the plans changed. You know what I'm saying? Same
Hmm.
kind of thing that happened with Saquon, where he was brought in by, I believe it was Gettleman. Then Gettleman is out as um, uh, whatever his position was, and
Yeah.
they had somebody else that had a different plan, a
Hmm.
different valuation for Saquon. And so when
Hmm.
it was time for Saquon to get paid, they, you know,
Yeah.
you have to really understand people and see what their value is to the culture of your business. To get rid of Saquon, they washed everything out. And
Yeah.
I know we kind of getting far beyond the point, but it's the same thing that was
No,
was going on, you
it is
know.
though. It is though. So I want to ask you a key question. I love the fact that you talked about, staying at BC and how you felt God was saying, be true to who you are, who He's created you to be.
Mm.
And then you make this transition to the pros. I know the rookie year is your best year, but how did that aspect of I want to make sure I stay true to who Andre is, who God created me to be in the NFL? It's a different stage. How did you maintain that your rookie year?
Um, by that point in this in my life, I was 21, 22 years old. Um, you gotta you when you get into the real world, there's a way to be and a way not to be.
Hmm.
I can see there's a trait, right, with all of the people that go on to make a lot of money. They get married and they have a wife. They just have the
Hmm.
support. They have the family. And if you are focused on just your family, and you're gonna have time and room to focus on your business as well. But the other way that you could be is that you're focused on the nightlife or whatever it happens to be, the pleasure, the entertainment, you can't focus on the business and the family, you know.
Yeah.
So I was trying to focus on the business and the family. I was doing those two things.
Good.
Um, I had got married at 20. I believe I got married at 22. Now
Mm-hmm.
it didn't end up being a wholesome union, but
Mm-hmm.
my I had an idealistic, but I was green. You know, I had an
Yeah.
idealistic but
Yeah.
green heart, and tore myself up a little bit. So I
Wow.
added to the adversity that I was experiencing uh, in football.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your vulnerability in that and
Mhm.
sharing that. So, 4 years in the NFL, which for a running back is kind of a typical career, right? I think it's like 3.5 years is typical
2.3
career.
is what the statistic was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. That's crazy. And so, a lot of times, when people are star athletes, Heisman finalists, NFL, you hear about them. But then when the career is over, you never hear about them again, right?
Mhm.
And so people never know the rest of the story
Yeah.
and the fact that there's a full life after the NFL because you're out at about 25 years old based on the timing for you.
Yeah.
So, what was it like transitioning out, and how did that bring you to where you are today?
So while I was playing ball after my rookie season, that's really when my entrepreneurship career began. Because I had, like I said, I had a good season, and
Yeah.
now it's the off season. I have time to myself. I was trying to figure out how to spend my time because I couldn't. I was used to, like I said, me and the kids, we were playing video games and running the Beyblades and stuff. I at 20 something years old, you're still kind of playing the Call of Duty and this and that on the PlayStation. But
Yeah.
after the rookie season, after I just did that, I couldn't pick up the PlayStation anymore. I was like, I know there's something I'm in New York City.
Mhm.
I got money in my pocket. I got this crazy platform. What am I supposed to really be doing with my time that's going to
Yeah.
build myself? You know, those are the young thoughts at 21, 22. And I was walking through Whole Foods one day and seen, you know how they got those soaps set up where it's like
Mhm.
handmade artisan
Yeah.
soaps. I was like, what would it be like to, like, how could I get good enough at making a bar of soap to get it in Whole Foods? You know, so I was like, I'm gonna go make some soap, and I built a fragrance lab in my townhouse. I was making soap bars.
Wow.
I was figuring out how to make candles. I was making, just mixing different essential oils and oils together to make scents and just sit it there and see what happens. Um, so I was experimenting, and I had a marketing agent named Luke, and Luke would come over with his camera, and we just talk shop, talk ideas. You know, if I needed some cards or whatever made. But he saw what I was doing. He's like, I got somebody I think that you would like to meet. And so I'm like, all right, let's go talk to him. And he took me into Manhattan. We went and sat down, and his name was Eamon. Eamon had a office in the WeWork building. He's like, hey man, you're a running back in the NFL. How would you like to create a signature shoe? I got this
Hmm.
factory out in Spain where they're cranking out Balenciaga arenas, and I got this designer named Stefan from Nike, and I could extend my creative faculties to you, and you could make something because I got a shoe company I'm creating called One Ground Footwear, and maybe I could help you, and you could produce something, we could run together.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was the coolest idea I've heard at the time, And I'm like, all right, I could do that. I know it's going to be some kind of pay to play situation, but let me see, because I'm in the house trying to make soap bars, but he's talking about going and messing with a factory out in Spain where they're making
Hmm.
Balenciagas. Like, I can make a
Yeah.
luxury product. And I ended up working with this guy, signed in with him, and I, about 6, 8 months, I was brand building. I was figuring out how to
Hmm.
communicate with a factory and create a product. That ideation phase, and ended up making a product. I got to production, and we made this right here.
There
This is the
you go.
Running Man. So this was my first creative project. I made
Hmm.
200 black and 200 white. You know. Um, And then there's other pieces besides actually making the shoe. You got to merchandise the product now. How you gonna box it?
Yeah.
Because then you got to move on to the
Hmm.
marketing and the selling.
Yep.
We haven't even gotten that far. We just were at the ideation, and I actually made the product. and I started meeting people because of that product, taking me to trade shows in the city, and I'm really not really understanding why I'm there, but I'm on the scene now because I actually have this
Mm-hmm.
product. So everybody's like, "Oh, he belongs here. We'll walk around." And it helped
Yep.
because I was in New York as a Giants player. I could
Yep.
go wherever I want, meet whoever I wanted to. So it was a special platform, and I just kind of stumbled upon it because, like I said, I was interested in chemistry. So let me go create something and stop trying to waste my time. And I ended up stumbling into aiming and doing this. So
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing yet because I wasn't actually selling
That's all
anything,
right.
but we were making product. I met this guy. Now this is the most important part. I
Yeah.
met this guy, and uh, it's a long story short, I met him because he was knew somebody on my team that was making clothes, and he was a producer. So, and I was working together with him to do like a Giants on the Runway project with some of my teammates. My shoes, my teammates' tops, and this other guy had some jeans. I meet this guy, and he's like, "So, why you're the one that made the Running Man?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why did you make it?" I said, "Well, because it was cool." He said, "It's a
Mm-hmm.
really cool shoe, but how you gonna sell it?" And I said, "I didn't get that far yet. I'm running with Eamon. We're making cool, and I'm playing football." And we ended up having this 3 hour conversation. We ended up having this 3 hour conversation, and he kind of blew my mind because he was giving me so much information. That ideation phase of product to idea to product, all that information was free, but I had paid for it over the course of 6 to 8 months. And then
Right.
we got on to more conversation about that next thing that I didn't know about yet, the marketing and the selling. So he
Mm-hmm.
kind of qualified himself as somebody that could take me to the next level in terms of creating product. And 3 hours, we were sharing a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sleep that night. Couldn't sleep that night, and I was just thinking. I'm like thinking about the shoe, and I'm like, well, it is a cool product, but is that really what the market needs? The market
Mm-hmm.
is it's got so many. It's oversaturated with shoes, and
Right.
that's part of how you gonna sell it. He just sparked my brain, and I was just couldn't sleep that night. And I'm thinking, okay, so what does the market need then? If it doesn't need the Running Man, what does it need? And I'm like, yo, I can't wear jeans because nobody I ripped my pants. Nobody's really making an athletic fit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up bringing it up to the guy that I had met earlier today. I call him Drew. And Drew was like, that's an idea. Athletic fit jeans, that's an idea. The premium and the couture market they're not really exploring this niche that you have, and you could fill that niche. But he said,
Mm-hmm.
don't just make any product, make the best product that you can get by getting the best fabric that you can find and
Mm-hmm.
creating the best product so that you can compete with the best people in the market. And when
I
he
like it.
said it to me like that, that hit my athletic competitive brain because that's why I was
Mm-hmm.
playing football. I wanted to
Yeah.
play against the best. And that's when I
Yep.
realized that business is a game.
It is.
Business is a game. And that's the biggest difference between college football and NFL football, too, is that in college, it's really just about winning the game. You got to go win the game. But
Mm-hmm.
in the pros, there's an element of entertainment to the sport,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the sport is also a game. It's
Mm-hmm.
also a business.
Absolutely.
So then I seen
Absolutely.
that the two things, it was the same thing. It's just like if we were to pull out a chessboard, Sean, it would make my palms sweat because I'm like, all right, it's time to compete. It didn't matter what the game
Yep.
was. I want to compete.
Yep.
So now I got the opportunity now to turn these ideas into product and get to that marketing and selling. I was intrigued. So I
I
ended up
love it.
taking it was my signing bonus, man. So that was the biggest financial gamble that I had played up to that point. I took it. I did it. I didn't feel like doing the stock market thing in the ETF. I took it out and I bought fabric, and we shook hands and we went to work. We went to work.
I love I love the leadership stuff in that, though, because there's so many different pieces here in your story. Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
To be effective in business, you need creativity.
Yes.
And creativity comes in all different forms, right?
Yes.
And I think about just you sitting down in your own room with the fragrances and the essential oils, figuring out the soap and stuff. That's that creativity.
Mhm.
And everybody has creativity in them.
Yes.
It's just a question how it comes out, right? Like artistically, I can't paint anything. They think it was a 5-year-old that painted something. Artistry is not the only realm of creativity.
Right.
You had creativity and try to think through different things strategically. I think that part of my creativity is in how to communicate, right? Communicating through teaching and lessons and workshops and that creativity side. But I love that you brought the competition piece into business
Mhm.
because people think that business is all about making money. It's not about making money. Sometimes it's just that purpose and that passion,
Yes.
and it drives that competitive desire in you. And the
Has to be that.
relationship between sports and games and business, there's so many parallels, right? In sports, you get new coaches, you have to deal on a week-to-week basis with field conditions, weather
Yes.
conditions.
And when you
Business
say
is the
coaches, you
same.
got to work with people that sometimes you might not like.
Say that
I
again.
say you might have to you might have to work with people that you don't like, you
Yes,
know?
but if you're all there for the same purpose, even if you don't like each other, you can accomplish the goal
You can
together.
still shake hands and say, I respect you, sir. I'll see you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. I like that. So, where are you today with your entrepreneurship? What's happening in 2025 with Andre?
2025, I am learning to live on the internet. I'm learning to live on the internet and bring my business to the internet. And I started that before 2025. My first so when we actually made the product, the jeans,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, all right, so how are we gonna sell it? And the
Yeah.
first thing that I tried to do was, find distribution. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to do the brick and mortar yet. I didn't know anything about that, but that was the expertise that I was absorbing from Drew. You know what I'm saying? He was like a
Yeah.
business mentor to me and also a business partner. So I invested with him, and I was talking to him every day. He was like my
Mm-hmm.
best friend. He was like my brother. You know,
Yeah.
and that's also an important key is if you're going to have a mentor is priceless. Mentor is
It
priceless
is.
because they have experience and knowledge that you can't buy it with money. The best business course couldn't give you what a mentor could, but the mentor has to like you in order for him
Yeah.
to share freely with you. And that's just like what you were saying, Sean. It's not just that's your gift. We have that gift of communication, but you have to, if you're going to be the
Yeah.
leader in your business, you have to be able to communicate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're starting to roll that out and learning every single step of the way,
Hmm.
and be excited to see how that plays out. And that's the thing about business is there's always the next hurdle to jump, right? Figuring out how we're going to get there, where's it going to come next. So that's awesome. Well, hey, I know you also dove into the realm of being an author. You have a book out called After the Last Snap.
Yes.
Give us a quick preview of what that is.
After the last snap is it's a memoir of my life from 0 to 30. So it's this same conversation that we're having, but it's from the like how it all unfolded from getting from high school to college to pros and then the transition. You know, um, when I say getting back on the internet, like I did do the distribution. We went for Do Teal. Uh, I got into this trade show called. It was in New York and it was in Vegas. I did the trade show. I got into one store. It was called Dutil. They have 3 locations in Canada, in Vancouver and Toronto.
Wow.
That was the summer of 2019. In 2020, they picked up my product, so it was due to hit the shelves spring of 2020. Pandemic breaks out.
Yep.
The pandemic breaks
Everything's
out
put
and
on
it
pause.
changes everything, and
Yep.
all the business was shut down. So that deal with Dutil kind of fell apart. but things did try to come back at a certain point. It's not like the world ended, you know. But the deal fizzled out still, because if you weren't established as a new brand, there's no way that somebody else was going to carry you in distribution. So I was like, I have to open up my own store, because at this point now I know enough about my product to where I can sell it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So I went through this period of seasoning, and then I moved up to that. All right, now we're going to go through the brick and mortar. I did do the brick and mortar for a couple of years, but still, it's the same situation where you figure out what that bottleneck really is in your business, and then you have to figure out how to evolve, how to pivot, how to adapt. And so now that's what I'm saying online. I did, and I was talking about a mentor, right? But it doesn't take away from the fact that there is extreme value in buying expertise. You know what I'm saying?
There is.
Maybe not a book or school. School is important. That's the way to do it. But you can buy, like consulting, you can buy expertise. You can actually talk to somebody and have them show you how to set up the system for an e-commerce business. So I did do that with AW Selvage. But now the other thing I did apart from the clothing was that I learned this martial art. That same guy that I'm talking about, Drew, right? That was my business partner.
Yeah.
This guy was he was like a Mr. Miyagi. He knew martial arts. 30 years he practiced martial arts since he was 3 years old. This is a Chinese guy. And that was something that actually extended my playing career, because my shoulder was tore up, subluxing, falling out the socket, you know? And when I met him, he's like, anything in your body that's messed up, I can fix it. You break your brain, I can't fix that. But anything below the neck is easy. And I was telling him about my shoulder and how I had already had the surgery on it. It messed up again. It's falling out the socket. Doctor's telling me this, telling me that. Can't fix it. He said, it's easy. It's easy. So I said, well, what do I have to do to work with you? He said, if you want it, I want it more. I'll come pick you up and we'll go work out anywhere you want to. I worked out with this guy for 23 days straight, and I never had another problem with my shoulder again. It never subluxed again, you know? So it blew my mind, because now I'm thinking about the body totally different. Just by exercising and eating, we was working out 2 to 3 hours a day, and he said, all right, let's go eat. We go eat some Asian food, some spicy tofu soup, some galbi, whatever it was, Korean barbecue, and seaweed, a lot of vegetables. And 23 days, and I never had another problem. Not just that, my body changed like 234 to 217 over the course of a month, really fast.
Wow.
Shredded.
Yeah.
Off of body weight exercise. So body weight exercise, but it's from the mindset of a martial artist, where he's just thinking about the body in his own philosophy. And exercise science is exact and this and that, but there's 190 countries in the world, and everybody's competing in the Olympics, and it's not just one country winning all the golds. Everybody's got a philosophy that works, you know? So that is also what I'm doing online. I'm building a fitness app, you know, and I have a 90-day fitness quest that I just created. Work out daily for 90 days, 20 to 30 minutes. If you had 20 to 30 minutes and a little bit of space, minimal equipment, we can build a leaner, more athletic body.
Yep. I love that. You know, some of the leadership lessons in there and business lessons, we never get anywhere alone. We need other people speaking to us, investing in us. I also like the fact that you talked about sometimes buying expertise.
Yes.
We need to invest in ourselves.
Yes.
It's like we invest in so many different things around us and products. Invest in you. Let people speak into you and develop what they can. And, you know, even that story about that martial arts, the 20 some days that he took you through, you had incredible results from it. You got rid of the shoulder pain, not because he directed you and coached you in it, but because you actually followed the direction.
Yes. Yes.
How many of us think, okay, I can read this book, I can listen to this coach, but we don't actually do what they're saying for us to do? It's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to enact it. But when we do both, we win.
It's like you smell the opportunity, you know it's there. Then you have to strike. You have to act. You have to move. Otherwise, you miss the opportunity.
Go after it. Well, hey, one last question before we wrap up today, because I know this is near and dear. So you are a leader. Leadership is influence. One of the greatest roles you have as a leader today is you're a dad of 2 young boys.
Mm-hmm.
So talk for a little bit about what it is to lead young kids today.
It's totally necessary for this reason. When I realized that I had when my son was born and I seen him pop out the womb and enter the world, that's a moment. You see, I seen his long watermelon shaped head, and I knew that he was a version of me. He was me.
Yeah.
I took myself and cast it out into the future, So leading me is leading myself. It was leading my kids. I have to lead myself in order to lead my kids, So,
Yeah, I agree because they watch every single thing.
yes.
And my wife and I have joked a lot. We have one child. She's 20 now. But we say that she represents the best of us and the worst of us because she's seen it all from us.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. But it's some of the greatest leadership we have. So, well, that's awesome. Well, hey, Andre, we finish every episode with the same question. So I'm going to ask you this question for our listeners' benefit. What is something our listeners can intentionally do today to lead more effectively?
I think that to lead more effectively today, the best thing to do is to listen. It's to just listen to the people around you, the people that are really in your life. Because just from the standpoint of you have to really understand what everyone's value is. I'm not the only one that's valuable. Everybody has value. That's why they're here. And if you can listen to them and understand their value, you know how to place them properly in your life in order for them to maximize their value.
Yeah.
If they maximize their value, whether or not I benefit from that, I'm somehow going to end up benefiting from it because they're in my life, But if it's just for them, that's great too, because they're going to benefit somebody else in your life.
Yep. Absolutely. I love it. Fantastic. Well, Andre, thanks for being a guest today. Listeners, in the show notes, you can find links to find Andre and his products and his book, and we hope that you'll do that. Andre, keep your heart focused, man. Keep looking to God. Lead well. We look forward to seeing what comes next for you.
Man, Sean, I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast presented by Reenergize Professional Coaching. Be sure to see the show notes for links to Reenergize Professional Coaching and links to contact our guests. Now, hit that subscribe button so that you are alerted with every new episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast.